The alarm screamed through the training chamber like a wounded animal. Commandant stood in the observation deck, his four arms crossed over his chest. Below him, 20 cadets floated in zero gravity, trying not to die. The combat drones moved fast, too fast for most species to track. They fired stun rounds that felt like broken bones. One cadet, a young named, spun through the air and managed to grab onto a wall panel. Good. He was learning. Watched without emotion. His black compound eyes saw everything, every mistake, every moment of fear, every hesitation that would get these soldiers killed in real combat. A cadet screamed as 3 drones surrounded him. The simulation ended for him in a flash of blue light. He would wake up in the medical bay with shame burning worse than any injury. Pathetic, said. His translator turned his clicking speech into words the other instructors could understand. 14 minutes. They lasted 14 minutes. Beside him, instructor uncrossed her scaled arms. She was reptilian with eyes that could see body heat. That's actually better than last cycle, Commandant. The cadet showed real promise. Promise means nothing. Results are everything. Turned away from the window. Below, medical teams were already pulling unconscious cadets from the chamber. How many quit this week? 7 pulled up a holographic display. 3 broke down during the fear conditioning. 2 failed the pain resistance trials. 2 more just gave up. Mandibles clicked in approval. Good. Better they break here than in real battle. The Crimson Spire doesn't graduate the weak. We forge warriors or we break pretenders. The Crimson Spire War Academy floated in space, orbiting a red giant star that looked like a burning eye. The station was massive, built like a fortress, with training chambers, simulation rooms, and medical bays that saw more use than any hospital. The Academy's reputation spread across 300 worlds. Every species in the Galactic Coalition knew the name. Most feared it. Had run this place for 40 cycles. 40 cycles of breaking down the proud, the confident, the supposedly elite. The Academy's graduation rate was 0.003%. Out of every 1,000 cadets who entered, maybe 3 would walk out with the crimson badge on their chest. That was exactly how wanted it. He walked through the corridors, his footsteps heavy on the metal floors. Other instructors moved out of his way. Cadets pressed themselves against walls when they saw him coming. Fear was a tool. Respect was earned through suffering. Entered his private office. The walls were covered with commendations, battle records, and one single photograph. He never looked at the photograph. Looking at it meant remembering, and remembering was dangerous. Instead, he reviewed the next cycle's roster. More names, more hopefuls, more cadets who thought they were special. He would prove them wrong. He always did. His computer chimed. A priority message from Coalition Command. Opened it and read quickly. Then read it again. His mandibles spread wide in what humans might call surprise or anger. Impossible, he clicked. But the orders were clear. A new cadet was being assigned to the Academy. Integration protocol, mandatory acceptance. The cadet was human. Had heard of humans. Everyone had, after their world finally got noticed by the Coalition. Earth. A small blue planet on the edge of explored space. The humans were newcomers, barely spacefaring, with primitive weapons and no real military tradition by galactic standards. And now they were sending one to the Crimson Spire. Called to his office. She arrived quickly, reading the same message on her. A human. Command must be joking. Command does not joke. Pulled up what little data existed on human physiology. Look at this. They're weak, thin skin, slow healing, no natural armor or weapons. They come from a low-gravity world with a standard atmosphere. They've never fought in real wars against other species. His forked tongue flickered. So why send one here? Politics, spat the word like poison. Earth wants to prove they belong in the Coalition. They want to show their species can handle military integration. He closed the file. Fine, we'll show them what their humans are really made of. How long do you think it will last? Asked. Thought about it. The first day broke most cadets. The fear conditioning alone sent half of them running. The pain tolerance trials destroyed another quarter. By the end of the first week, only the strongest remained. But this was a human, unknown, untested, soft. 6 hours, said. I'll give it 6 hours before it begs to go home. His eyes gleamed. Want to make that interesting. A wager. If the human lasts more than 6 hours, you buy drinks for the instructor staff for a month. His mandibles clicked in amusement. It was the closest he came to laughing. Done. And when I win, you handle waste recycling duty for a month. They shook on it, her scaled hand against his chitinous claw. The human would arrive in 3 days. Spent that time designing a special welcome. He called it the welcome ordeal. 6 hours of continuous testing that would push a cadet to absolute limits. Physical endurance, pain tolerance, mental stress, combat scenarios, psychological torture. It was designed to break the proud, to humble the arrogant, to show new cadets exactly what they had signed up for. Had been refining the welcome ordeal for 20 cycles. Nobody had ever passed it without breaking down at least once. The strongest cadets screamed. The bravest cadets cried. The cadets begged. He reviewed the program one more time and felt satisfied. The human would experience more suffering in 6 hours than most beings faced in a lifetime. On the third day, stood in the docking bay and waited. Other instructors gathered behind him. Word had spread about the human cadet. Everyone wanted to see it. The transport ship landed. The airlock hissed open. And the human walked out. Studied it carefully. The human was tall by some species standards, average by others. It wore a standard cadet uniform that looked too new, too clean. Its skin was pale. Its eyes were dark. It carried one bag over its shoulder. What struck most was the human's face. It was smiling. An easy, relaxed smile like it was arriving at a vacation resort instead of the most brutal war academy in known space. The human stopped in front of and stood at attention. Cadet Minu reporting for training, sir. The voice was steady, no fear in it, yet. Looked down at the human. You are late. The welcome ordeal begins immediately. Do you understand what that means? No, sir, Minu said, still smiling. Good, clicked, follow me. As they walked toward the training wing, fell into step beside. She whispered, it's too calm. Something's wrong with it. Fear comes later, replied. First comes confidence, then comes pain, then comes breaking. Watch. Behind them, Cadet Minu walked with easy steps, looking around the academy like a tourist. His smile never faded. Felt a strange sensation in his thorax, something unfamiliar. For just a moment, he wondered if 6 hours would be enough. Then he dismissed the thought. 6 hours was generous. This human would break in 3. The gravity chamber looked like a cage made of metal and hatred. Minu stood in the center while activated the controls from outside. Standard test, announced through the speaker. Endurance trial. The gravity will increase every 5 minutes. Most cadets collapse at 3 times Earth gravity. The record is 5 times. You will stay standing as long as possible. Minu nodded. He didn't ask questions, didn't complain, just rolled his shoulders and waited. The gravity increased. 2 times Earth normal hit Minu like a physical weight. His knees bent slightly. His spine compressed. Every breath became work. Around the observation window, instructors watched with, recording everything. Noted the human's heart rate, elevated but stable, respiration increasing. Of course it is, said. Its bones are probably screaming. At 2.5 times gravity, most cadets were on their hands and knees. Minu was still standing. His legs shook. Sweat ran down his face. But he was doing something strange. He was breathing in patterns, 4 counts in, hold for 4, 4 counts out, hold for 4, repeat. What is it doing? An instructor asked. Checked her scanner. The breathing pattern. It's oxygenating his blood more efficiently, compensating for the pressure on his chest. 3 times gravity hit. Minyu's knees buckled. He went down to one knee. The instructors leaned forward, expecting surrender. But Minyu didn't quit. He stayed on one knee, breathing his strange pattern, muscles trembling. After a full minute, he pushed himself back up to standing. It took everything he had. His face turned red with effort, but he stood. 3.5 times gravity, 4 times. Minyu went down again, this time to both knees. His hands pressed against the floor. Blood dripped from his nose. Stop the test, said. We're going to injure it permanently. No, clicked. It hasn't surrendered. We continue until surrender or unconsciousness. At 4.5 times Earth gravity, Minyu collapsed completely. His body pressed flat against the floor. The chamber door opened automatically, safety protocols engaging. Medical staff rushed in. Minyu waved them off weakly. I'm okay, he gasped. Just need a minute. 43 minutes, announced. Most cadets last 15. Congratulations on not being completely worthless. Minyu looked up, still lying on the floor, and smiled through bloody teeth. Thank you, sir. That smile bothered. There was something wrong about it. 10 minutes later, Minyu was in the pain tolerance chamber. This test is simple, explained. We apply increasing levels of pain through neural stimulation. When you can no longer handle it, you press the button. The duration measures your combat ability when injured. Minyu sat in the chair. Technicians attached sensors to his temples and wrists. Understood, sir. The test began. Level 1 was like touching a hot surface, uncomfortable but manageable. Level 2 felt like burns across the skin. Level 3 was broken bones. Level 4 was internal organ damage. Most cadets surrendered at Level 5. Minyu reached Level 5 and his entire body went rigid. His jaw clenched. His hands gripped the armrests hard enough to bend the metal, but he didn't press the button. Level 6. Minyu's eyes squeezed shut, tears ran down his face. His breathing pattern returned. 4 counts, hold, 4 counts, hold. Impossible, an instructor whispered. How is it doing that? Studied her screens. It's brain activity. It's compartmentalizing, separating the pain signal from the panic response. I've never seen this before. Leaned closer to the window. The human was suffering. That was clear, but there was something else. Minyu's lips were moving, whispering something. Enhance audio, ordered. The speakers picked up Minyu's voice, barely audible through his gritted teeth. Just signals, just electrical impulses. They can't actually hurt me. The pain is information. Information can be processed. Processed means controlled. He was talking to himself, teaching himself, using words to override his own nervous system. Level 7, Minyu screamed, but still didn't press the button. Stop the test, said firmly. Commandant, this is dangerous. We don't know human pain thresholds. Hesitated. The human was at Level 7. Only 3 cadets in Academy history had reached Level 7. All of them had been species with natural pain resistance. Humans weren't supposed to have that. Stop it, ordered. The test ended. Minyu slumped in the chair, gasping, shaking, covered in sweat. But when the technicians removed the sensors, he looked up with those dark eyes. Still conscious, still aware. How long? Minyu asked. 21 minutes, said quietly. Minyu nodded like that meant something. Then he stood up, wobbled, caught himself on the chair and straightened. What's next, sir? 2 hours down, 4 to go. The isolation chamber was a black box 3 meters on each side. No light, no sound, just darkness and the cadet's own mind. Inside the chamber, holographic projections would appear. Fears, failures, worst memories brought to life. It was designed to break the spirit. sealed Minyu inside and activated the program. Through the sensors, they could hear everything the human said. At first there was silence. Then the holograms began. The system pulled from standard fear templates: darkness, monsters, death. Minyu's voice came through the speakers. Okay, not real, definitely not real, just holograms, just, wow, that's a really good hologram, very scary. Good job, whoever programmed this. The instructors exchanged looks. Is it complimenting the torture program? Asked. The test continued. The holograms got worse, more personal, more psychological, but instead of breaking down, Minyu kept talking to himself. All right, this is interesting. This is definitely pulling from human psychology. Fear of abandonment, classic. Fear of failure, standard. Oh, that's creepy, that's very creepy, but still just light. Light can't hurt me. Already hurt enough today, honestly. He was analyzing the test, while inside it, while being tortured by it. This is wrong, an instructor said. Cadets are supposed to be screaming by now. Said nothing. He watched the sensor readings. Minyu's stress levels were high but plateauing, not increasing. The human was adapting. 30 minutes into isolation, Minyu started problem-solving out loud. Okay, so the system responds to my fear response. More fear equals worse holograms. That's actually smart design. So if I reduce fear, let's try that. Square root of 144 is 12. 12 times 8 is 96. 96 divided by 3 is 32. What is it doing now? Demanded. Checked math. It's doing mathematics, using logic puzzles to calm its nervous system. The hologram started glitching. The program wasn't designed for a subject that fought back with multiplication tables. Terminated the test early. The door opened. Minyu stumbled out, pale and shaken, but still on his feet. That was intense, Minyu said. Really good psychological warfare training. I learned a lot. You learned, his mandibles spread wide. You were supposed to break. Oh, Minyu blinked. Sorry, sir, did I do something wrong? Touched arm. Commandant, 3 hours have passed. 3 hours. The human was supposed to be destroyed by now. Instead, it was apologizing for not breaking correctly. Felt something unfamiliar building in his thorax. It wasn't anger. It was something else. Something that felt like the ground shifting under his feet. Combat trial, ordered. Now send it to the advanced course. Sir, that's for final year cadets. Now. The combat arena was filled with automated opponents. Drones, turrets, and holographic enemies that fought with real weapons set to stun. Most new cadets couldn't survive 5 minutes. Sent Minyu in without explanation. The human lasted 3 minutes before getting shot, then 2 minutes, then 90 seconds. But something strange was happening. Each time Minyu got knocked down, he came back different. He moved differently, attacked differently. After the 4th round, he dodged a shot that should have been impossible to see coming. How did it? An instructor started. Learning, said softly. It's learning from each failure. Round 7. Minyu did something completely unexpected. He grabbed a disabled drone and threw it at another drone. They collided and both went offline. That's not standard tactics, an instructor protested. That's not even possible. The drones are too heavy. But Minyu had done it. And in the confusion, he'd repositioned behind cover and taken out 3 more targets. Watched with growing unease. The human wasn't following any doctrine, wasn't using any recognized combat pattern. It was just improvising. Round 12. Minyu reached a control panel and started pressing buttons. What's it doing? Demanded. His eyes went wide. It's hacking. It's trying to reprogram the training drone. Impossible. Those systems are encrypted. But Minyu's fingers moved quickly over the interface, and one of the training drones suddenly stopped firing at him, turned, started firing at the other drones. The combat simulation crashed. Error messages filled the screens. His mandibles clicked rapid fire. Anger, confusion, something else. Get it out of there, now. When Minyu emerged from the combat arena, covered in bruises and stun marks, he was still smiling. "Sorry about the system crash, sir," he said. "I thought outside-the-box thinking was encouraged. 4 hours down, 2 to go." Pulled aside. "This isn't normal. The human isn't responding like any cadet we've ever tested. It's not trying to survive the tests. It's trying to solve them." Looked at Minyu, who was being checked by medical staff. The human was exhausted, injured, pushed far beyond what should have been its limits. But it wasn't broken. And that was impossible. Made a decision. If the standard welcome ordeal wouldn't break this human, he would use something else. Something reserved for advanced cadets who had already proven themselves. The impossible choice. "Take it to Scenario Chamber 3, ordered." His head snapped toward him. "Commandant, that's a graduate-level test. It's designed for." "I know what it's designed for." Watched as Minyu was led away by 2 guards. "The human wants to solve problems. Let's give it an unsolvable one." 10 minutes later, Minyu stood in a simulation chamber that looked like the bridge of a warship. Holographic displays surrounded him. A squad of realistic AI teammates stood at various stations. It felt real. It looked real. The Academy's best technology made sure of it. From the observation deck activated his communicator. "Cadet Minyu, you are the commanding officer of this vessel. Your mission is to deliver critical intelligence to the Coalition fleet. This information will save billions of lives. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." Minyu's voice was tired but steady. "Begin scenario." The simulation started. Immediately, alarms blared. A holographic officer shouted, "Commander, we've detected a distress signal. A civilian transport is under attack by raiders. 300 passengers, families, children, they're dying." Minyu moved to the display, studying the tactical map. The transport was 7 minutes away. The Coalition fleet was 20 minutes away in the opposite direction. Another officer spoke. "Sir, if we help the transport, we'll miss our delivery window. The intelligence will be worthless. The fleet will walk into an ambush. Thousands of soldiers will die." It was the classic no-win scenario. Every species in the Coalition taught the same answer: mission first, always. 300 lives versus thousands of lives. The mathematics were clear. Had used this test for 15 cycles. Every cadet made the same choice eventually. Save the many. Sacrifice the few. Learn that command meant making terrible decisions. Many cadets broke during this test. The weight of it crushed them. Watched Minyu's face, waiting for the moment of realization, the moment of despair. But Minyu didn't look despairing, he looked thoughtful. "Options?" Minyu asked his simulated crew. "None, sir. We can't reach both targets in time." "How far can the transport's escape pods go?" The tactical officer checked. 300 kilometers maximum range on standard pods. Minyu's fingers moved across the console. "And if we fire warning shots near the raiders while transmitting emergency coordinates to the nearest patrol ships?" "Sir, the nearest patrol is 11 minutes out. The transport will be destroyed in 8 minutes. Then we buy them 3 minutes. Minyu turned to the weapons officer. "Can you target the raiders' engine signatures without hitting the transport?" "It's possible, but at this range the accuracy is." "Do it. Weapons free. Fire on my mark. Communications, broadcast an emergency beacon on all Coalition frequencies. Make it big. Make it loud. Make every ship in this sector know something's happening here." Leaned forward. "What is it doing?" The simulation continued. Minyu wasn't saving the transport. He wasn't abandoning them either. He was doing something else. "Helmsman, calculate a slingshot trajectory around the transport's position. I want maximum acceleration toward the fleet coordinates, but I want us visible to those raiders for as long as possible." Sir, that will slow us down. We'll miss the delivery window by 4 minutes. I know, do it anyway. The simulation played out. Minu's ship roared in, weapons blazing, not to fight but to distract. The raiders broke off their attack, confused by the sudden appearance of a military vessel. The transport managed to launch escape pods. The emergency broadcast brought 2 patrol ships screaming in at full speed. Minu's ship used the gravity well of a nearby asteroid to slingshot toward the fleet, engines at maximum. They arrived 4 minutes late. The simulation froze. Red text appeared. Mission failed. Intelligence DELIVERED late. Fleet AMBUSHED. 1247 CASULTIS. But smaller text appeared below. Civilian transport SURVIVORS. 287. Raider squadron captured BY patrol ships. Minu stood in the silent simulation, breathing hard. I failed. His voice came through cold and harsh. You did. You prioritized emotion over logic. You cost the coalition over 1,000 lives. Yes, sir. Do you understand why this was the wrong choice? Minu looked up at the observation window. Couldn't see his expression clearly, but his voice was steady. No, sir, I don't. The silence stretched out. Explain, demanded. The scenario assumes the only 2 options are save everyone or save some. But there was a third option: change the variables. The raiders weren't expecting resistance. The transport had escape capability. The patrol ships were close enough to respond. I didn't save everyone, and I didn't complete the perfect mission, but I refused to accept that choosing between bad options was the only answer. Was checking her frantically. Commandant, the simulation has never been completed this way before. The parameters don't know how to score it. It's a failure, snapped. The mission failed, that's the score. But other cadets had gathered near the observation deck. Word had spread about the humans' tests. They were watching, listening. A senior cadet named spoke up. But sir, in real combat wouldn't we try to find third options? Isn't that what tactics are for? Spun on him. In real combat you follow orders and prioritize objectives. You don't gamble with mission success. But what if the mission parameters are wrong? Another cadet asked. A female named Bora. What if we're given bad options and told to choose? Then you choose the least bad option. His mandibles were spread wide now, aggressive. That's what command means. Minu's voice came through the speaker, quiet but clear. Sir, may I ask a question? Was breathing hard, his thorax felt tight. What? In your military career, did you ever face an impossible choice? The observation deck went silent. That's not relevant, said. Did the choice you made work out the way you planned? Cadet, you are out of line. I'm just asking, sir, because this scenario feels designed to teach us that some people have to die, that we have to accept casualties. But what if we're taught to accept casualties too easily? What if we stop looking for third options because we're trained to see only 2? One of the instructors moved toward the communicator controls. Commandant, should we terminate? No, his voice was quiet now, dangerous. Send the human to the final test, now. 5 hours had passed. 1 hour remained. The final test was personal, one-on-one with himself. No physical trials, no simulations, just conversation, interrogation, psychological dismantling. This was where truly broke cadets. He had 40 cycles of experience reading beings from hundreds of species. He knew how to find the fear beneath the bravery, the doubt beneath the confidence, the trauma that everyone carried. Minu sat across from him in a small white room, just 2 chairs and a table. The human looked exhausted. His hands shook slightly. His eyes were bloodshot. But he met gaze directly. Do you know why you're here? Asked. For the final test, sir. No, you're here because you're broken, and you don't know it yet. Minu said nothing. You think you're special, continued. You think because you survived 5 hours you've proven something, but you haven't. You've just hidden your cracks better than most. Everyone breaks eventually. Everyone has a weak point. Yes, sir. You try to be clever in the impossible choice scenario. You think finding a third option makes you smart, but it makes you dangerous. Soldiers who don't follow doctrine get other soldiers killed. Minyu tilted his head slightly. Is that what happened to you, sir? The question landed like a physical blow. What did you say? I'm sorry, sir, I shouldn't have. Answer the question you asked. His voice was razor sharp. What did you mean? Minyu met his eyes again and saw something there he didn't expect. Not challenge, not disrespect, understanding. You designed these tests, Minyu said slowly. The impossible choice, the emphasis on following protocol over adaptation, the way you break cadets who question the system. These tests feel personal, like they're teaching a specific lesson, like they're trying to prevent a specific mistake. You know nothing about. Did you lose people, sir? Did you follow doctrine perfectly and still watch them die? The room went silent. His 4 hands clenched into fists. His mandibles clicked erratically. 40 cycles. 40 cycles since the Battle of Station. 40 cycles since he'd followed every order perfectly. Since he'd prioritized the mission over his unit. Since he'd watched 300 soldiers under his command die because he chose the objective over their safety. 300 lives to secure one strategic position. The coalition won that battle, got promoted, got medals, got assigned to train the next generation. And he'd spent every cycle since teaching cadets that his choice was the right one. That sacrifice was necessary. That questioning doctrine was weakness. Because if he was wrong, if there had been another way. Get out, whispered. Sir. Get out. Minyu stood quickly and left, the door sealed behind him. Sat alone in the white room. His hands were shaking. His breathing was rapid. 40 cycles of certainty were crumbling. The human had lasted 6 hours. And somehow in those 6 hours, Minyu hadn't been the one who broke. Found 30 minutes later, still sitting in the interrogation room. His 4 arms hung limply at his sides. His compound eyes stared at nothing. Commandant. No response. The human passed the 6-hour mark 20 minutes ago. The test is over. His mandibles clicked slowly. Send it away. The cadet is in medical receiving treatment. Broken ribs, severe bruising, neural strain from the pain trials. He'll recover. Moved closer. But I'm more concerned about you right now. I'm fine. You're not. I've known you for 18 cycles. I've never seen you like this. Finally looked at her. The human asked me questions. I know, I was monitoring. Not questions about the tests, questions about me, about why I built this place the way I did. His voice was rough, his translator struggling with the emotion. It saw through everything in 6 hours. 6 hours. What did it see? Stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. That I'm a fraud. That this entire academy is built on my failure. That I've been breaking cadets for 40 cycles to prove to myself that I made the right choice at station. The name hung in the air between them. His pupils dilated. The Battle of Station was 37 cycles ago. You received the Coalition Star for that action. I received a medal for getting 300 soldiers killed. His voice cracked. I followed every protocol, every tactical doctrine, every order from command, and I watched my entire unit die because the doctrine didn't account for the enemy adapting, because I was too afraid to improvise, too committed to the mission to see the trap until it was too late. He moved to the wall, pressing his hands against it. I built this academy to teach cadets that my choice was right, that sacrifice for the mission is noble, that adaptation is dangerous, that questioning orders is weakness. He looked back at, but what if I was wrong? What if there was a third option and I was too blind to see it? Approach slowly, you can't. That human found third options in scenarios I spent cycles designing to have only two choices. It adapted to every test. It used methods I never considered. It didn't break because it refused to accept that breaking was inevitable. Its mandibles spread wide. Everything I've taught here. What if it's all wrong? Before could respond, alarms blared through the academy. Emergency alerts flashed on wall panels. "What now?" muttered. They rushed to the command center. Multiple screens showed chaos in the cadet dormitories, raised voices, arguments, a crowd gathering. "What's happening?" demanded. A security officer pulled up camera feeds. "The cadets are. They're questioning the training protocols, ma'am. Started about 15 minutes ago. They're saying the tests are designed to break them, not train them." On screen stood on a table addressing a group of cadets from multiple species. The human proved it. You can challenge the scenarios. You can find different answers. We don't have to accept that suffering is the only way to learn. Another cadet shouted, "The commandant has been teaching us that adaptation is weakness, but what if he's wrong?" Bora's voice rang out. "I've lost count of how many times I've failed tests because I tried something different. But the human tried different things all day and survived what should have killed it." The crowd grew larger. More voices joined in. Watched the screens with an expression had never seen before. Not anger, not disappointment, something like horror mixed with resignation. "They're questioning everything," he said quietly. "The entire system is collapsing." "We need to restore order," an instructor said. "Lock down the dormitories, reassert authority." Looked at Commandant. "Orders." Said nothing. He was watching one screen in particular, the medical bay camera. Minyu lay on a recovery bed wrapped in healing bandages. Another cadet, a young named, sat beside him. They were talking. "Enhance the audio." "The tests aren't bad," Minyu was saying. "They're actually really well designed, but they're designed to test specific qualities: endurance, pain tolerance, psychological strength, all important things." "Then why did you break all of them?" asked. "I didn't break them, I just approached them differently. On Earth we have a saying, if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. The Academy teaches hammering, but sometimes you need a screwdriver, sometimes you need glue, sometimes you need to walk away and think. The Commandant says that kind of thinking gets soldiers killed." Minyu was quiet for a moment. "Maybe it does sometimes, but I think refusing to adapt also gets soldiers killed. The universe is complicated. War is complicated. People are complicated. We can't prepare for everything, but we can prepare to think." Leaned forward. "Do you think the Commandant is wrong?" "No, I think he's teaching from experience. Bad experience, probably. He's trying to prevent a mistake he made or saw someone else make. That's actually really noble, but trauma makes terrible doctrine." Flinched at those words. "Trauma makes terrible doctrine." Touched his arm. "Summon all instructors to the main auditorium," said suddenly. "And all cadets, everyone, mandatory assembly in 1 hour." "Sir, what are you planning?" "I'm going to make a decision." Looked at her directly. "Either I'm going to restore order and prove that my methods are correct, or I'm going to do something I should have done 37 cycles ago." "Which is?" "Admit that I was wrong." The auditorium was massive, designed to hold thousands. Right now, it held 300 cadets and 50 instructors, all standing in tense formation. Nobody knew what was coming. Walked onto the stage alone. No notes, no prepared speech, just him and 300 pairs of eyes. He stood at the podium and looked out at the faces. So many species, so many young soldiers who had survived his brutal training, or were still trying to. "I am Commandant," he began. "I have run this academy for 40 cycles. In that time I have trained thousands of cadets. Most of them broke, most of them quit, some of them died." He paused. "I told myself this was necessary, that only the strongest should become soldiers, that breaking the weak protected the coalition. The room was silent. Today, a human cadet lasted 6 hours in the welcome ordeal. This should not have been possible. Humans are new to the coalition. They have no military tradition by our standards. They are physically weak compared to most species. By every measure, this cadet should have failed. His mandibles clicked slowly. But it didn't fail. It adapted. It found solutions I never considered. It challenged every assumption I built into those tests. And in doing so, it revealed a truth I have been avoiding for 37 cycles. He gripped the podium. The Battle of Station. Some of you may have heard of it. I was a tactical commander. I followed every order perfectly. I prioritized the mission absolutely. And 300 soldiers under my command died because I was too rigid to see another way. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I built this academy on that failure. I taught you that adaptation is dangerous, that questioning doctrine is weakness, that some sacrifices are necessary. I convinced myself that my choice was correct, and I spent 40 cycles forcing you to learn the same lesson. Looked up, his voice strengthening. But I was wrong. The human proved it, not by being stronger, not by being tougher, by refusing to accept that my scenarios had only the answers I designed, by looking for third options when I insisted only two existed. He stepped away from the podium. This academy will change. The training will still be hard. The tests will still be brutal. War is brutal. But we will stop teaching you that there is only one way to think, one way to fight, one way to win. Looked directly at Minu, who stood near the back in his medical wraps. That human broke me in 6 hours, not because it was stronger than me, because it was willing to question everything I thought I knew. He turned back to the crowd. I don't know if this makes me a better commander or a failed one, but I know that holding onto the wrong certainty is worse than admitting you don't have all the answers. The silence was absolute. Then started clapping, slow, deliberate. Other instructors joined. Then cadets. The applause built until the entire auditorium thundered with it. Stood there feeling something crack inside his thorax, not breaking, opening, like a wound that had been sealed wrong finally getting a chance to heal properly. After the assembly found him in his office. That was brave. That was necessary. Looked at the photograph on his wall, the one he never looked at, 300 faces staring back at him. I've been carrying ghosts for too long. What happens now? Now, his mandibles spread in something almost like a smile. Now I figure out how to rebuild an academy with the help of a human who broke it. 3 days passed. 3 days of silence from his office while the academy buzzed with energy and confusion. Instructors didn't know which protocols to follow. Cadets didn't know what to expect. Everything felt suspended between the old way and something new. Managed the daily operations. She found herself making small changes without even thinking about it. An extra rest period here, a modified test there. It felt strange. It felt right. On the morning of the 4th day, she went to his office and knocked. Enter. Sat at his desk, surrounded by holographic displays. He looked tired, older somehow, but his eyes were clear. I've been reviewing 40 cycles of training data, he said without looking up. Success rates, injury reports, cadet feedback, post-graduation performance records, everything. And the data doesn't support my methods. Finally looked at her. Graduates from this academy have excellent discipline and pain tolerance, but they have poor adaptive decision-making scores, below average compared to other military academies. They follow orders well but struggle in unpredictable situations. Sat down slowly. You're saying? I'm saying I've been creating soldiers who are very good at doing exactly what I tell them and very bad at thinking for themselves. He pushed it toward her. Look at combat casualty rates. Our graduates die more frequently in unconventional warfare. They excel in standard engagements but fail when the enemy doesn't follow expected patterns. The data was clear, brutal, honest. "What do we do?" asked. "We fix it," stood. "Where is Cadet Minu?" Medical released him yesterday. He's in the standard training rotation with the other new cadets. "Bring him here." 20 minutes later, Minu stood in his office, still moving carefully because of his healing ribs. He looked nervous. "Sir, if this is about the dormitory discussions, I didn't mean to." "Sit," gestured to a chair. "You're not in trouble." Minu sat, confusion clear on his face. Studied him for a long moment. "On Earth, how are soldiers trained?" "Sir." "Humor me. How does your species prepare warriors for combat?" Minu thought about it. "Well, it varies by nation and culture, but generally we focus on fundamentals first. Fitness, weapons handling, basic tactics. Then we introduce complexity, problem-solving exercises, scenario training where there might be multiple right answers. We teach soldiers to assess situations and make decisions, not just follow orders." "And if a soldier fails?" "Depends on the failure. If they're not trying, that's one thing. If they're trying something new and it doesn't work, that's learning. We expect people to fail sometimes. That's how you improve." His mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Here, failure is treated as weakness, as something shameful. "With respect, sir, that seems like a good way to make soldiers afraid to try anything new." "Yes," pulled up a holographic display of the Academy's layout, "which is why I need your help changing that." Minu blinked. "Sir, you broke my Academy in 6 hours. Now help me rebuild it." Looked at him directly. "I'm not asking you to replace doctrine with human doctrine. I'm asking you to help me create something better than both. Training that pushes cadets to their limits but also teaches them to think, to adapt, to find those third options you're so fond of." I'm just a cadet, sir. I don't have experience designing." "You have experience being broken by bad systems. That's exactly the perspective I need." Gestured to the displays. "Tell me, if you were designing a test to measure combat capability, what would you do differently than what I put you through?" Minu stood slowly, moving to the displays. His eyes scanned the data. "You test endurance, pain tolerance, psychological strength, and combat skills separately. Why?" "Because each quality is important." "But in real combat, they all happen at the same time, right? You're exhausted and in pain and scared and fighting all at once." Minu pointed to the gravity chamber data. "What if instead of testing how long someone can stand in high gravity, you test how well they can solve problems while under physical stress?" Leaned forward. "Continue." "And the impossible choice scenario. It's brilliant for teaching hard decisions. But what if you added a timer mechanic where cadets could pause and consult with others? Teach them that asking for help isn't weakness." Was taking notes rapidly. For 3 hours, Minu and discussed training theory. Sometimes they agreed. Often they argued. But it was productive argument, building something new from the pieces of what came before. "The pain tolerance test," Minu said. "I understand why it exists. Soldiers need to function when injured. But maybe instead of just measuring how much pain someone can take, measure how well they can complete tasks while in pain. We do that in advanced training." "Then why not combine the tests? Make the early tests less about breaking people and more about teaching them to work through difficulty." Clicked his mandibles. "Because breaking them shows who is strong enough." "Does it?" Minu asked gently. "Or does it just show who's strong in one specific way? I barely survived your tests, sir. If you designed them differently, I might have failed completely. But that wouldn't mean I couldn't be a good soldier. It would just mean I'm not good at your specific tests." The truth of it hit like a physical blow. How many good soldiers had he rejected over the years because they didn't fit his narrow definition of strength? "We change the welcome orientation," decided. "Make it 6 hours still, but not designed to break. Designed to assess. Different cadets will excel at different parts. We identify strengths and weaknesses, then train accordingly. That makes sense, Minyu said, and maybe add a section about adaptation. Let cadets face a problem that requires creative thinking. Looked up from her notes. The other instructors won't like this. Some of them have been teaching the old methods for 20 cycles or more. Then they can adapt or leave. His voice was firm. This academy broke cadets because I was broken. That ends now. Over the next month, changes rippled through the Crimson Spire. The welcome ordeal became the welcome assessment. Still 6 hours. Still brutal. But instead of pure torture, it measured how cadets handled stress, adapted to challenges, and solved problems. Some cadets who would have quit under the old system found ways to excel. The impossible choice scenario was redesigned. Cadets could now spend resources to gain more information, consult with team members, or even challenge the premise of the scenario itself. The goal wasn't to accept a bad choice gracefully. It was to find the best possible outcome with limited resources. Physical training remained intense, but recovery periods were built in. Learned that humans had something called muscle growth during rest. The idea that bodies got stronger when given time to heal, not when pushed to constant destruction. He applied this to all species training. Not everyone was happy. 3 instructors resigned, claiming had gone soft. Some senior cadets complained that the changes made the academy less prestigious. If it wasn't the hardest place in the galaxy anymore, what was the point? But notice something else in the data. Injury rates dropped by 40%. Cadet retention improved. And most surprisingly, the quality of graduating cadets increased. 6 months after Minyu's arrival, the Academy graduated its largest class in 15 cycles. 63 cadets earned their Crimson badges. More importantly, their performance assessments showed higher tactical flexibility and better decision-making under pressure than previous graduates. Stood in the graduation ceremony, watching the cadets receive their badges. Minyu was among them, looking proud in his formal uniform. After the ceremony, found Minyu outside the main hall. "Congratulations, Minyu." "Thank you, sir," Minyu smiled. "I hear you're getting visitors from Coalition Command next week. They want to see the changes." "Yes, apparently other academies are interested in our new methods." His mandibles spread slightly. "Strange how things work out." "Sir, can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "That bet you made with instructor about me not lasting 6 hours." Minyu's eyes glinted with humor. "Who won?" Was quiet for a moment. Then, for the first time in 40 cycles, he made a sound that his translator interpreted as laughter. "She did. I bought drinks for the entire instructor staff for a month, and it was worth every credit." "Why?" "Because I learned something more valuable than any training program could teach." Looked at the young human who had torn down his carefully constructed world. "I learned that being broken isn't the end. Sometimes it's the beginning." Minyu nodded. "What will you do now, sir?" "Keep improving, keep adapting, keep questioning my own assumptions." Turned to look at the academy, the fortress station that had been his prison and his purpose for so long. Maybe visit Earth someday, see how humans train their warriors, learn from a species that apparently excels at finding third options. "We'd be honored to host you, sir." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching ships come and go from the station. The red giant star burned in the background, eternal and indifferent to the small dramas playing out in its shadow. Minyu said finally, "Thank you." "For what, sir?" "For refusing to break. For showing me that strength comes in forms I never considered. For breaking me in 6 hours and giving me a chance to rebuild into something better." Minyu smiled. "You did the hardest part yourself, sir. You were willing to change. Not many people can do that." Looked at his 4 hands, these tools of war that had pushed so many cadets to their limits. I spent 40 cycles creating soldiers in my own image, rigid, unbending, traumatized by failure. I thought I was making warriors. I was making copies of my worst self. And now I'm trying to make something better. Soldiers who are strong but flexible, disciplined but creative, who follow orders but aren't afraid to see alternatives. His mandibles clicked softly. It's harder than the old way, much harder. The best things usually are, sir. A young cadet ran up out of breath. Commandant, instructor needs you in the command center. There's an emergency communication from the front lines. Nodded, I'm coming. He looked back at Minu. Congratulations again, graduate. Your first assignment will come through in a few days. I'm ready, sir. I know you are, that's what scares me. Started to walk away, then paused. One more thing. The Academy is instituting a new program, Advanced Tactical Instruction for Promising Graduates. I'd like you to be part of the first class. Me, sir. You broke an unbreakable system in 6 hours. Imagine what you could do with proper training. His compound eyes gleamed. Besides, I need someone to help me continue rebuilding this place. Someone who isn't afraid to tell me when I'm wrong. Minu stood, I'd be honored, sir. As walked back to the command center, he realized something. The weight he'd carried for 37 cycles felt lighter. Not gone. It would never be completely gone. 300 soldiers died at station, and that responsibility would always be his. But now, instead of using that weight to crush others, he could use it to build something better. The ghosts of station would always be with him, but maybe they could guide him toward creating soldiers who wouldn't make his mistakes. In his office that night, finally took down the photograph from the wall. 300 faces, 300 names, 300 lives ended because he'd been too rigid to adapt. He held the photograph for a long moment, then carefully placed it in a drawer, not throwing it away, never forgetting, but no longer letting it define everything he did. On his desk, a new report waited. Graduation rate, 15%. Cadet satisfaction, highest in Academy history. Tactical flexibility scores, exceeding coalition standards. And at the bottom, a note from, You did it. You changed everything. I'm proud of you. Looked out at the stars, at the endless black punctuated by distant lights. The universe was vast and complicated. War was vast and complicated. People were vast and complicated. But maybe that was okay. Maybe trying to simplify everything into rigid rules was the real weakness. Maybe real strength was admitting you didn't have all the answers. He thought about a human who refused to break, who looked at impossible tests and found third options, who changed an entire military academy with nothing but questions and a refusal to accept that suffering was the only way to learn. Clicked his mandibles softly, a sound of contentment. Thank you, Cadet Minu, he said to the empty room, for teaching an old warrior that the toughest battles are the ones we fight with ourselves. Outside, the red giant burned on. Inside, the Crimson Spire War Academy prepared a new generation of soldiers, stronger not because they couldn't break, but because they knew how to rebuild. And somewhere in the dormitories, a human cadet smiled in his sleep, dreaming of impossible problems and the infinite ways to solve them.